right?
So it wasn't like it was sitting there a long time. So
Yeah. Who knows? Alright, we have got the stream going. I just got a notification. We're live. The internet can totally see you now. As I make funny faces on the screen. Move that there. Move that there. Okay.
all right.
Alright, can I get a testing from you?
Testing, 1, 2, 3.
Perfect. Alright, you ready to cook this goose?
Let's do it.
Alright, here we go. Starting in 3, 2, 1. Welcome to Geekvice episode 169, proving any vice with enough geek can become a virtue. My name's Morph, that man's Kip. Good evening, Kip.
Good evening.
It has been one crazy week here in the Geekvice world. Kip's been traveling. We've been playing D&D. He's been playing board games. I've been watching movies. It's all kinds of crazy. But before we get started with the show itself, let's get a couple announcements out of the way. One, I wanted to throw out there, and then I mentioned it. I believe it wasn't the last episode, but the episode before. I talked about some new games for Geekvice Gaming coming up. One of them, I just got notification that I could get my beta key for Children of Zodiac, which is a turn-based, almost like a board game. The way it the look and feel of it almost feels like a board game. It's a tactical role-playing game, is what they call it. But it's looking really good. I could have my beta key for that as early as next week, and I'm looking forward to getting that into Geekvice Gaming as well. So if I can get permission, I'll be showing that game off. At least maybe a quick episode or two, just to kind of show off what it is, because you can go and purchase it now on Steam as well. It's they have not set a release date for it yet, other than early 2017. So could be coming any time now. So really looking forward to that. The other thing, want to mention that you should go check out the podcastarcade.com. Go check out the other shows on our network, the Podcast Arcade. There's lots of good stuffs on there, like the Goad Kicker and Daydream Instruction Manual. Uh, the new one is Soundtrack Alley, Soundcast Alley,
Soundtrack Alley.
Soundtrack Alley. Randall over there. That's a good one, especially if you like soundtracks and scores for movies and things like that. Really good. So go check that out. Go check out the other shows there. Falcon Punch Thunder Dads is on there. Um, Go check those guys out. They support us, so I want to support them. Throw a little love their way. Go check them out. Thepodcastarcade.com. Also, last announcement is May 6th is Geekvice Tabletop Day at California Pizza Kitchen in Leawood, Kansas. If you are going to be in the Kansas City area, you should definitely check that out. If you need more details, you can always email us at geekvice@gmail.com. We will answer you as quickly as possible. Or you can go to our Facebook page, facebook.com/geekvice, and it's in our events section. There is an event on Facebook. If you are coming, please let us know either by email or by clicking the "You Are Coming" button on Facebook, so we make sure we have enough tables and enough chairs for everybody to be able to play. Having games is not going to be a problem. We will have enough games for everyone that is there to play. Um,
Absolutely.
between Kip and myself, we will have a good selection of games there, all kinds of different stuff. This is a kid-friendly thing. My kids will be there, so it's going to be a lot of fun. So we'll have everything from kids games like Monopoly Junior, all the way up to more complex games like Lords of Waterdeep and the game that we're going to be talking about this week on the show here in a little bit, Scythe.
You got it right.
Bam, man! I've been practicing as we've been trying to work out these technical difficulties here to get this started. I've been practicing to say it right because I see that word and I want to say Sith or Scythe.
It's one of those words where you look at it and go like, there's like 5 different ways to pronounce this. I wonder
Yeah,
which one is correct.
yeah, exactly. Um, so yeah, go check us out. Come join us May 6th, California Pizza Kitchen, Leawood, Kansas. Geekvice's Tabletop Day. The other things, some other stuff that I want to throw out there. One, I watched Deadpool with my wife this weekend. Actually, just today, and she has been refusing to watch it since the movie came out. She wanted nothing to do with it. I went and saw it in the theater. I believe. Did I go with you? I went with you, didn't I?
Yeah, I think so.
I think you and I went and saw it in the theater together. So, um, I loved it. I think the movie's great. After watching Logan last weekend, she saw the Deadpool 2 trailer. It made her want to watch Deadpool because that trailer was so funny and she enjoyed it so much. She wanted to watch Deadpool. So we watched it this weekend, and she absolutely loved the movie. She said the violence was a little over the top and she could have done without some of the violence in it, but she said that the humor and the wittiness of it was just absolutely hilarious. And she said we're gonna go see Deadpool 2 in the theaters when it comes out. So unfortunately, we have to wait a year for that to happen, maybe a little longer than a year, since the release date's not till 2018. But still, that's awesome. And if you are having trouble getting your wife to watch Deadpool, any of our listeners out there, or your girlfriend, or your significant other, or whoever, just show if they like the movie Van Wilder, they're gonna like Deadpool. The violence is there, but the comedy and the humor in it outweighs the violence. So,
Yeah, and I think we've all become desensitized to the violence anyway. So
well, it's even the violence that they do is almost tongue in cheek. Like it's almost like the slapstick violence. I mean, you see blood splatter and you see some stuff, but I mean, is the violence in that really any worse than the back in the day the original Tom and Jerry cartoons? I mean, for
well,
for God's sakes, the cat gets lit on fire. Like, I mean, Ren and Stimpy, that kind of stuff. I mean, they didn't seem to have a problem with that, you know, that kind of violence. So, um, yeah, I still think Deadpool, one of the best movies out there. If you haven't seen it, you need to go see it, and maybe it'll work for you. Show the person who's not wanting to go see it the Deadpool 2 trailer. If they like that trailer, tell them the original movie's just like it, just longer. So,
well, did your wife admit that she only liked the Deadpool 2 trailer because Ryan Reynolds' butt?
you know, she didn't say that was the only reason, but that sure didn't seem to hurt anything.
Didn't hurt the ratings at all.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure I caught her drooling in the Deadpool movie when you got to see Ryan Reynolds' butt too. So yeah,
Yeah. Hey, whatever floats your boat, I suppose. Because I may or may not have watched movies because I thought there could be nudity. I can neither confirm nor deny I've done that.
right, right. So the last thing that we're going to talk about before we get into the board game is the Justice League trailer came out this last week. Kip, your thoughts on the Justice League trailer? How many times have you watched it?
I think three. Yeah, but like within a span of like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
The wife and I sat down and watched it, and she's like, "Let's watch it again." So we watched it again. It got done. She's like, "Let's watch it again." So we watched it again. Um, Truthfully, it makes me want to see the movie. I mean, there's some things about it you're like, I don't know, some kind of same old DC, but then there's some parts where it's like they're trying some humor here, so
Yeah.
that's encouraging.
Yeah.
Um,
The trailers at least don't. This trailer doesn't seem to be as dark as
right,
some of their other trailers.
exactly.
I will give them that.
Yeah,
I
the cyborg character, the trailer kind of made that character fall a little flat, in my opinion.
Right.
Aquaman looked cool.
Yeah.
And my favorite part was when he walks in there, takes a big swig of that guy's alcohol. I was like, "What's on him?" I was like,
Yeah.
"That they're trying. They got
Yeah.
some going here. I like it."
You know, I still have some reservations about the movie. Some of them are historical reservations.
Oh yeah, exactly.
DC's shown us a lot of trailers that I thought, man, that looks really good, and then the movie's just kind of fallen flat. My favorite part of Batman vs Superman is watching the trailer. Um, it's way better than the movie itself. But on that
Oh,
same note, I hope I really want this movie to be good. I want it to be good. I like the Justice League. I think it could be good. My bigger concern with it is how are they going to tell us how are they going to explain why the Flash and Aquaman and Cyborg are there? How are they going to how are they going to fit them in and still tell you enough about them to know why they want to be there in this movie? I'm a little concerned about that. You
there
know,
are some flashes where they don't really say anything, but how they flash scenes really quick.
yeah,
They look like they could be from an origin story from like um, holy crap! I just said his name too. Cyborg. Dang.
right, yes, yeah, yeah, I
And
did see
you're
that.
like, okay, then maybe they're going to handle that.
Well, and they showed a little bit. They showed, I think her name's Mira, um, who is Aquaman's girlfriend or whatever, who lives under the lives in the ocean. There was a flash of her.
Right.
Um, you got a little bit with Barry Allen. I think you're going to get some stuff there. My concern is just that when you look at what they did with the Avengers movie, they didn't need any of that time because you already knew about all the people. So putting them together wasn't that big of a deal. Where this one, since it's going the other direction, and there hasn't been a Flash movie, there hasn't been a Cyborg movie, and there hasn't been an Aquaman movie, they now are going to have to take time out of their 2.5 hour movie to explain a little bit of who they are and why they're there. And I'm concerned that that's going to take away from the Justice League movie, or they're going to just not give that enough time to explain them at all, and then it's going to just make the movie suck because it's going to be just cameo appearances of Aquaman, the Flash, and Cyborg, and it's really just going to be Batman and Wonder Woman. And I'm going to guess Superman's going to show up at some point in the movie, even though he wasn't in the trailer. It's just going to be the three big hitters doing stuff. And
Yeah.
I think the parts of the Avengers that I thought was really cool was when you had characters like the Hulk just jumping through and saving Tony Stark, or Hawkeye being up on the rooftop pointing out, calling out signals and telling people where to go and what's going on, while he's up there picking people off. Like the Black Widow, Captain America working together in a fight. That kind of stuff was really good. If they don't do that same kind of stuff in the Justice League, I think they'll be missing out. So
I totally agree. Avengers did this interesting thing with backstories. Of course, they had some of the characters at least set up, not really backstory, but set up for the movie.
mm-hmm.
But like with Hawkeye and Black Widow, you get hints of a backstory. Like this is like Budapest all over again, and it made you go, man, I want to see that movie.
Right.
Show me Hawkeye and Black Widow in a movie where Budapest happens. Hopefully, they'll do something at least intriguing enough where you have that reaction to it.
Yeah, I hope so.
But it's DC, so you never know.
Yeah, and just for those that think I'm a Marvel,
I hate it.
Homer here, I am wearing a Flash T-shirt right now because I do like some of the characters. I love what they've done with the TV show in the DC universe. All the TV show or a lot of the TV shows. I'm not a huge fan of all of them, but most of them. Um, but the movies have just fallen flat for me, and I really hope that Wonder Woman looks to be really good, and I just hope that the Justice League that Wonder Woman will be good, and Justice League can build off of that, and the movie franchise can start winning some people back, because I don't know how many more failures they can take before people just give up on the DC characters as a whole. So
Yeah, I agree.
I don't
I
know.
have hopes, but I don't have the expectation that it's going to be great.
Yeah,
If
yeah,
it is, then I'll be pleasantly surprised. If it's not, I'd be like, well, yeah, kind of saw that coming.
right, right. So, all right, enough movie talk. Movie talk. It's time to move to the table. Let's lay this game out. I'm looking forward to this. I was reading a little bit about it on Board Game Geek before the show, and man, this thing looks like a lot of fun. I really want to play this game.
Yeah, it's well, the backstory for me on this is I had a $40 Visa gift card burning a hole in my wallet, so I knew I wanted to buy a board game, and I was at Tabletop here in Overland Park with a friend, and we were kind of walking through looking at stuff, and he kept pointing out this game Scythe. And being a frequent visitor of BoardGameGeek.com that I am, I saw people going nuts over this game. My initial reaction to when people go nutso like that over something is I'm going to hate it. I am not a cult of the new kind of guy. So I was really like, I don't know, it's an $80 game. I don't, I'm afraid to drop that kind of money and then hate it. But I couldn't find anything else that I really wanted. And I've read enough about this one. It's like, you know what? I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna buy this game without even playing it once. So I did. And the main reason our friend Jason, Jason,
Mm-hmm.
was a big fan of this game is he likes games designed by Jamie Stagmeyer. And he listed off all these games that he really liked by him. And it's like, all right, so fine. I'm not one of those people that pays attention to that. Like, I go see a movie and they're like, oh, it's directed by this guy. It's like, I don't know who that is. And then I'll go see another movie directed by that same guy. It's like, oh, yeah, that's that same director. It's like, okay, fine. I don't know who that is. Like, well, you just watched a movie. But so it's a Jamie Stagmeyer design. It's done by Stonemeyer Games. It is a 4X game, which the 4Xs are explore, expand, exploit, and exterminate.
So,
So
and just to put that into video game geek world, Civilization is a 4X game. So that is part of the reason why I really want to play this board game because I love Civilization. This is Civilization on my table. I want to see it.
It is in a small way. It is. Another reason I like the idea of it, is it says it's 90 to 115 minutes
Mm-hmm.
playtime. That is pretty much a reasonable amount of time that doesn't scare people away.
Right.
So that helps. And it's 1 to 5 players, and I like the idea of having a solo variant that I could just pull out and play this game sometime, and just, if I don't have a group getting together and I just want to play it, there is an extra set of rules that's just for a solo game, which is awesome. So it's like, okay, we're checking some boxes here. I'm starting to like this. So today, I played a 2-player game by myself. So one person playing 2 roles, basically. And so I got the feel of the rules down, and the play. The scary thing about this game is the rule book is 31 pages.
That's a hefty rule book.
That is a hefty rule book. But there are pages with a lot of pictures, so reading the text doesn't take nearly as long. And they try to explain every little detail, which is fine. A big one is the way the actions work for each person. You choose a faction, and you get their board for the faction. Here's one of them.
Mm-hmm.
And it has different things that only this faction gets. Like, it has a section where it tells you how powerful this faction is right off the bat. This one is the Nordic kingdoms, and their starting power is 4. And their special ability is your workers may move across rivers, which is a big deal because this is an area movement or an area control worker placement game. So when you move, you get moved 1 space. And being able to move across the river is basically, you get to, like, moving 2 spaces. And you don't have to go around the lake or river, which is nice. Kind of shortcut some things. So for the Nordic guys, that's pretty cool. And then on top of the worker placement mat, you get a player mat. And this is where I'm going to talk about the component quality of this game, which is fantastic. On the screen, people on the podcast, sorry, you'll have to go to Geekvice and look at the pictures I posted of this. There are 4 different areas on a player mat, and each area is an action that you can do on your turn. And you can only do one of the areas per turn. And you can't do the same area twice in a row. So, like, one of the areas is, production. One of the areas is for movement. One of the areas is for trading resources, and the other one is to bolster your power. Your basically your army. And what's cool about this is there are little tokens that go on these boards to kind of show what the cost of certain things are. Some of them are buildings that once you build it, it uncovers another power. And that's all fine and dandy, but the cool thing is anywhere that one of those tokens goes in, there's actually a cutout in that place. So the player board is pretty thick cardboard, and so there's a notch cut in like halfway down into that, and the pieces fit perfectly in there. So when you're setting up the board, you just kind of populate on the top all the places where there's a notch. Everything has its own size. So you have the buildings all fit by their shape into their notches. They have these resource square cubes that fit perfectly into their notches. And then you have workers that fit into their notches. So setting up the board, these notches just kind of help you do that. which
Well,
is
and
kind of
that also makes it easy. You know, one of the things that I hate, um, it really frustrates me is especially when you're playing a game with kids. But it happens, you know, it's happened when you and I've played together with a group, and somebody gets up from the table and they bump the table, and then all the pieces get shifted just enough to where you're like, ah,
yeah.
shit, where did that go? You know, and you know, it happens all the time in board games. This strikes me as something that could actually help eliminate, well, at least reduce, if not eliminate, the that problem. So that's awesome. That's genius, really.
It is genius. It still doesn't save the board from having that happen.
Right.
The board doesn't have the notches in it. These are just the player mats that sit with you at your spot on the table. But those are the smaller things that you have to deal with. So having those shift around
Yeah.
would be bad. So like you said, if somebody bumped the table, your cost for certain things will still stay the same because they fit snugly into these notches and they're not going anywhere, which is nice. Another thing I like about it is the miniatures for this thing. Each faction has its own character. Here's I keep pulling out the Nordic guys. I guess I guess I really like the Nordic guys. Um, but here's that.
Nice.
Um, I don't know how to put things back where they came from. I played the Crimean faction, Crimea, and its miniature looks like that with the giant hawk.
Nice.
Things are kick butt. There's one on top of a bison.
That's
One
awesome.
here, you know, one of the wolf. It's just quality stuff. And besides them, you also have mechs for each faction, and those are pretty good quality miniatures themselves, and they're all their color of their faction, so you can tell them apart. Plus, they don't even look the same.
Nice.
You know, one looks like a two-legged walker with just big guns. One looks like a tractor with just guns on the back. One looks like a giant crawler. So, not only are they different colors, they're actually different mechs, which is nice. The cubes and everything that make up your resources. Oh, yeah, and everything comes in its own bag already for you, so you don't even have to do that.
Nice.
But all the tokens and everything are wood, which is really nice.
Right.
The coins are cardboard. I saw that you can. I don't know what website it is. I didn't pay that close attention to it because I'm not going to do it. But there's a website they give you where you can go and pay to buy metal coins for the game. Just
Nice.
kind of quality up a notch.
Right.
So, component quality, holy cow. They really thought this out, especially the player mats. Those are just awesome. The gameplay, you're like me, have probably played games like Risk or games like that where they have a certain component, certain mechanic, and you like that mechanic, but all the way through the game, after a while, anybody who's played Risk will say, you know, this certain mechanic, you know what's going to happen, can make the game drag on and on.
Yep.
Kind of thing. Well, this is like, think of your favorite mechanics and some of your favorite games. They're all in here.
Oh, wow.
There's area control. There's worker placement. There's combat. Variable powers. Resource management is huge. On your turn, you look at your player board, and each section has an upper part and a lower part. When you put your token on one of the deals, you can choose to do the upper part or the lower part, both or neither. But you still have to pay the cost if there's a cost associated with it. Like this one is pay one coin. That's what
Okay.
that's for. And so the cool thing about it is at the beginning of the game, you'll say, well, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to produce resources. And there's places on the map, if you've got workers on them, they have a certain resource icon, and you can take up to 2 territories that you control, and for every worker on there, you produce one of those resources. Well, so like I choose produce, and at the beginning you can produce up to 2. You can upgrade to where you can produce 3. Well, on the lower half of that is the part where you can deploy your mechs onto the board, because they aren't on the board to begin with. But in order to get to those, you have to have the resources under your control to spend. Like for this player mat, and each player mat is a little bit different as far as the cost. The 4 types of actions are the same, but the lower cost may end up being different. For this one, it's to do a mech. It takes 3, basically steel. On this other board I just pulled out by random, the same action takes 4. So there's a little bit of a difference depending on what board you do draw these by random. So you have to have those resources before you can even think about using the bottom half of this board. So your first few steps in this game may be trying to figure out what I want to accomplish, what steps in order I need to take to get the resources to accomplish that, and make sure that once you got it, you're at least on the right place on the board to use that action to make that thing happen that you want to happen.
Oh man.
So, and all of it comes down to your strategy is this. Well, I guess I should explain what the end of the game is. The team with the most money wins. The faction with the most money wins. And there's a fairly elaborate scoring system to get you some coins. There's popularity. There's military power. Where you are on the track of those creates the multipliers to get your coins. The cool part of this game is the end of game is triggered by doing what's called placing your stars. Each faction gets 6 stars, and they go on the top part of this board. I don't know if you can see that very well.
Yeah.
There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 ways you can earn a star. Placing all 4 of your mechs, you can put your star there. Winning a battle, there's 2 of those, so winning 2 battles, you can have 2 stars. Getting your power track maxed out, which is 16, gets you a star. Maxing out your popularity gets you a star. Getting man, it's late. My words escape me, so I have to look things up. Anybody's ever played a game with me isn't surprised.
No, we're not surprised at all.
No, nobody is. Working out an encounter card get you a star. Getting objectives done earns you a star. So you can decide by the faction you got and what is your strength. You can look at these 10 things and go, I have a best shot at getting these 6 stars. And then you start working your strategy based on that. Like today, I had one that was basically Russia, and the other one was Crimea, or however you pronounce it. I'm sure somebody will correct me. The Crimean one was not a military power. So my goal for that one was to get up the power on that thing as quickly as possible, because your power rating helps you in combat. Because I knew these Russians were going to come in and try to use their muscle and push me around and take over territories by pure might. Because of that, I ended up getting my power maxed out fairly quick and earned a star for that. Wasn't really going that direction, except for I just wanted to build it up high enough so I could defend myself. And the next thing I knew was like, oh, I almost got it maxed out. I might as well just keep going. So your strategy can change on you, which is awesome. I did mention combat. The combat isn't huge in this game, but it's there. So once you place a worker or a mech or your character on the board, they never come off. But each faction has what's called a home space. It doesn't count towards your total territories, and the other teams can't take it over. But every time you lose a battle, anybody that's on that territory that lost the battle goes back to home base.
Gotcha.
They never come off the board. You never lose them, but they do come off the territories, and you got to get them placed back on to get credit for having these things placed and controlling territories and things like that. If you do take over a territory and it had resources on it, you now control those resources to spend. The other team's just SOL and they're gone.
Oh, that's even better. Man, this sounds like an awesome game.
It is totally cool. I played today for a while. I didn't finish the game mainly because I just wanted to get the play down and kind of get a feel for the strategy. And once I got so far into it, it's like, okay, I've got this. It's getting late in the day. I need to start taking some notes and stuff. So I didn't finish it, but I could see where this was going, and that was once the yellow team, Chromaria, got the power, it's like, that's awesome. I worked so hard to do that. I don't know what I'm going to do for my other 5 stars. So now it's like, holy crap, I got to figure this out. And the other team that didn't get the power right away, but they had military might, had all their mechs out. They were taking over their part of the board pretty big. The best thing about the mechs, not only because of battle, is when your movement, you can only move 2 people at the beginning, and unless you upgrade it to 3. Well, that 2 can include your mech, and your mech can hold as many workers as you want. So if you had like 5 workers on a space with your mech and you wanted them all to move, you can say they're all on your mech and move, and that's just 1 move.
Nice.
So that's the cool thing about the mechs, besides being able to kill things, is you can really influence the board by moving a lot of workers at one time.
So in this kind of a game, it's kind of, like you said, it's similar to Risk and some of the other games like that. How does the turn? Is there repetitiveness to a turn, like to a player's turn that could get, they can get kind of redundant after an hour and a half to 2 hours of playing?
No, so these designers took a lot of things into account. So like I said, the turn has a top and a bottom action that you can do.
Yeah.
If you decide to do both, you have to do the top one first and then the bottom one. Once the top one is completed and you're kind of still working through the motions on the bottom one, the next player can start their turn. So there's some overlap there.
Right.
Which is pretty nice. So it kind of speeds the game up. The repetitiveness, I didn't really notice it, other than depending on what your strategy is. Like for me, that one, my Chromaria, I went back and forth between producing and moving. Like every other turn was move, every other turn was produce. I was trying to get moved into the areas with the resources I needed and start stockpiling those resources so I could do upgrades, release
Right.
mechs, build buildings, that kind of thing. So you may find you're doing that, but because you can't choose the same action 2 turns in a row, it's the repetitiveness is gone.
Right. Okay.
So that's I thought that was a brilliant
Well, and
design.
I really like the idea of player like the player overlap, or player turns getting overlapped. That can would that can you see that leading to a well, it kind of makes could that lead to people having to make their turns quicker so that you're not getting drug out to that one player who's paralysis by analysis and just sitting there trying to figure out what they're going to do because the next person is already starting to take territories or starting to pull cause problems for what you're trying to do if you don't act quickly. Could that lead into a situation?
It it can, especially if the one person is getting ready to deploy a mech and the other person's getting ready to move. It could influence where that person places their mech or where that other person moves their people.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to be careful with that. There is some overlap. When reading the rules, I thought the intention was, yeah, there's some overlap, but you don't want to go too soon
Right.
to the next person. You want to, so like if they're deploying a mech, there's paying the resources. There's also you earn gold and things like that as well. I think that's the part that it's trying to speed up is here's what you pay. This is what you get in return. So get your mech out on the board, and then um,
And then the passing out of
and the other,
resources or the things like that just get kind of
yeah,
happen a little quicker while the next
yeah.
person's already placing their piece. I gotcha.
So you gotta be smart about it. Otherwise, you could end up causing some arguments like, "Oh, you weren't gonna put that mech. I was gonna. You weren't gonna put that mech there until you saw I was going to attack, and then you changed your turn and blah blah blah." I could see that happening if we jump the gun too quickly,
Right.
but I
And
think
that's
if you're smart
and,
about it, you
well,
won't.
and that's kind of some of the stuff anyone who's played chess either competitively or semi-competitively, the timed chess, that ability to be able to think moves ahead and be able to move quickly and anticipate what that other person's going to do, or just planning your move to block them before they could do it. I could see that in this game if that wasn't, if their turns overlapped enough that would be kind of a fun aspect to it, kind of kind of like even simpler games like Witch Slapped, where you're or Slapjack type games where you're trying to get to something before somebody else because everybody's moving at the same time.
Right.
I kind of like that aspect to it, and brings a it brings that level up of of competitiveness within the board game itself. I kind of like that. Man, this game just sounds awesome. I can't wait to try this. I don't know when you and I are gonna have time to get together and do this, but I would love to get together and play this thing before our tabletop day. Let's just put it that way.
Well, we can make that happen. I know next Friday I get off of work at 12:30. You do not, but the people who do get off at 12:30, we're going to meet at tabletop and go through a run through of this thing.
Oh, nice.
So I'll have at least 2 plays under my belt by the time you and I can play. We'll just have to set a time and date for this.
Yeah.
My whole thing is Battlestar Galactica is probably my all-time favorite game. I can't get that thing to the table enough.
Right.
The hard part about convincing people to get that game to the table is it takes 3 hours to play.
Yeah.
It's hard to convince people, especially a lot of my friends who don't have that kind of time to sink in or just are not that big of gamers to play. It's hard to get that one to the table for 3 hours. This
Right.
one, 2 hours max. Um, I think that is fairly reasonable. You could also, if they nobody wants to play for 2 hours, you can say, it's not in the rules, but I'm just making this up. You can say, well, maybe we'll just cut it down to 5 stars. If you can get 5 stars, that triggers the end of the game,
Yeah.
and just count it all up and see who won. That kind of thing. So, depending on how many times I can get to the table and how many times the game still continues to be a lot of fun, which, judging by the variability of this thing, it could be a very long time. This may supplant Battlestar Galactica as number one. We'll see. I'm kind of feeling like it will. Battlestar Galactica is very sci-fi, very, I can't say futuristic because it actually takes place in our very, very, very deep past.
Right.
Scythe takes place in the 1920s. So, compared to Battlestar Galactica, it's futuristic. But it kind of reminds me a little bit of like a steampunk kind of thing with the big mechs and stuff like that. The artwork makes it look like these mechs are almost like coal burned, the coal fired engines kind of a thing.
Right.
But because the combat is not such a big deal and it's a lot of resource management, which I'm a huge fan of, I don't know. I could see this really being a hit with the people I game with. I think you're going to like it quite a bit. So, and if it wasn't for it being $80, I bet your son would like this game as well.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's, I mean, looking at it, Amazon has it. Well, just through Board Game Geek, their advertisement on Amazon is $91.95. That's a little on the pricey side. I'm not gonna lie. Um, that's up there. Amazon does have it in. Looking down at the other options, you can find it for as little as $72, and eBay has some listings at $125. So,
Right.
um, wide range, fairly expensive game, but a very, this is a complex game. This is not something that's going to be simple. It's not going to be, it's going to take some learning. It's going to take some playing, and it takes some time to finish. So,
Yeah.
um,
And with everything packed into the box, it weighs about 10 pounds. You feel like you're getting your money's worth by just picking it up.
yeah, there you go. So,
Yeah. And I wouldn't have normally done it, but I had a $40 gift card, so it was like getting it for half price.
yeah,
So
those are always nice. If you go to Board Game Geek, I know that you had shown that these mechs and these miniatures that are there, there's actually a few um, videos on how to paint some of these guys. So if you ever get the urge to want to paint your characters, you can check out those videos.
I do not have the patience for that.
Yeah.
I'm not ever going to do that.
If you're gonna do it, what's gonna happen is you're gonna give it to Brad, and Brad's gonna do it. So,
Yep.
but yeah, looks like a great game. Really looking forward to giving this a try. I can't wait to hear how next Friday's session goes and how this little playthrough goes. So.
Yeah. I can't wait. My time has kind of been like, it's been a little bit of a gaming paradox for me. I don't know if paradox is the right word, but I'm going to use it. And that is, do I play Zero Dawn or do I play Scythe? And it's been a tough call because I can't go wrong with either one as far as I can tell so far. So
That's awesome.
yeah.
Gotta love that, man. You gotta love that. Well, I think that is a good place to put a little wrap in here. we have gone on long enough. I
I don't,
do say that again.
I'm not a rapper.
You're not a rapper. Well, I'm gonna
Yes.
give a shout out to our buddy Norm from Cheers for his email that he sent. Him and I went back and forth on our discussion from last week about Logan. That was a lot of fun. We went back and forth. Nothing. Not saying anybody was wrong or right or anything like that, but everyone's got their different opinions on it. But he did agree that he agreed with you and that this was the best X-Men movie, or one of the best X-Men movies that's been made. So he was on board with you is calling it an X-Men movie. So um, I can't argue with that. So
No, it'd be tough to argue with that.
exactly, and so that was fun. That was fun. You guys can also check out his other stuff that Norm from Cheers does. You can check out our blog at geekvice.blogspot.com. He's got a few movie reviews up there. They're really good. I love reading his reviews. It's good stuff, and you should check it out. Read it. Follow him on Twitter, Norm from Cheers. You can also follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/geekvice. Go like that. Go subscribe. You get notifications for stuff. You can follow us on Twitter. That man over there at Kip Killigan. You can follow me at Geekvice. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel. That'll give you notifications when these videos go, when we start recording them. It'll also let you know when new Geekvice gaming episodes go up. So go click that button over there. And lastly, like we mentioned before, you can be like Norm from Cheers and email us at geekvice@gmail.com. We respond fairly quickly because I need those distractions sometimes at work. So I like getting emails, and if I get a little pop-up on my phone that says I got a Geekvice email, then I am already going to look to see what it is because I'm always excited to hear our fans email us. So you can email us your thoughts on this. If you've played Scythe, email us. Let us know what your thoughts are. If you want to play and you want to know where Kip's going to be on Friday, email us. Maybe this video is going to be out there, whether it's the video on YouTube or it's the podcast, will come up before he goes and plays this game on that Friday. So,
Absolutely.
So
And if you show up to play, we will not make you be on the podcast if you don't want to be. So
exactly. So, all right, thanks everybody for listening to our ramblings, and we will see you next week.
Later.
This podcast is part of the Podcast Arcade Network.